When rescuers broke into a fur farm, they didn't just find cages, they found heartbreak. Dozens of animals, trembling, hungry, and waiting for a fate too cruel to imagine. Among them was a tiny German Shepherd puppy, pressed into the corner of his cage, his eyes filled with silent pleas. No one expected him to survive, but fate had other plans. Instead of being lost to cruelty, this little pup was given a second chance, one that would lead him somewhere extraordinary. Because after his rescue, he didn't just find freedom, he found a family. And not just any family, but a pack of powerful, majestic Huskies who would teach him what it truly meant to belong. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Behind tall wire fences and locked gates, the fur farm stood hidden from the world. Inside, rows of cramped cages lined the muddy ground, each one holding a life that was never meant to suffer. The smell of fear and neglect hung heavy in the air. Among the silent victims was a small German Shepherd puppy, pressed against the rusted bars, his tiny body trembling. Day after day, he watched others taken away, never to return. His food was scraps, his water stale. He was too young to understand why the world around him was so cruel, but he felt it with every shiver of his fragile frame. His once bright eyes had dulled, filled with a quiet sadness, as though he had already given up hope. Yet somewhere deep inside, the spark of survival remained. When footsteps echoed near his cage, he pressed himself tighter into the corner, his ears twitching with dread. He longed for warmth, for kindness, but all he had ever known was cold metal and empty nights. Little did he know, his life was about to change forever. Beyond the fences, strangers were preparing to tear down his prison and give him a second chance. The night was silent when the rescuers arrived, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They moved cautiously, knowing every moment mattered. With bolt cutters and quiet determination, they pried open the gates of the fur farm. The air was thick with the cries of animals who sensed something unfamiliar, something that felt like hope. Hearts pounded as cages rattled and terrified eyes stared back at the strangers who had come to save them. Among the cages, one rescuer spotted the tiny German Shepherd puppy. His frail body shook as she knelt before him, whispering softly. At first, he didn't move, too used to disappointment. But when the lock snapped and the door creaked open, she reached out her hand. Hesitant, he sniffed, then stepped forward. For the first time, he felt gentle fingers stroke his matted fur, and a whimper escaped his throat. One by one, the cages were opened, animals carried to safety. But it was the sight of the small shepherd nestled in the rescuer's arms that brought tears to many eyes. "You're safe now," she whispered as his head rested weakly against her chest. He didn't know it yet, but the nightmare was over, and his story of survival was only beginning. At the rescue center, the German Shepherd puppy was placed on a soft blanket for the first time in his life. The warmth beneath him felt strange, almost unreal. Veterinarians moved quickly, checking his frail body, noting every bruise, every sore. A bowl of clean water was set in front of him, and though he hesitated at first, thirst soon won. He lapped it up, his tail giving the faintest, uncertain wag. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the puppy began to heal. Fresh food filled his tiny belly, and medicine soothed the pain that had haunted him for so long. Volunteers visited his kennel, sitting quietly, letting him learn that hands could bring comfort instead of fear. He started to recognize voices, lifting his head when familiar footsteps approached. Trust, once broken, was being rebuilt piece by fragile piece. Still, the scars of the past lingered. Loud noises made him shrink back, and sudden movements sent him trembling. But each time, patient arms lifted him, reminding him he was no longer alone. Slowly, he dared to play, nudging a toy with his paw, testing the joy he had never known. And as his spirit began to shine again, it became clear this puppy was ready for more than survival. He was ready for love. When the foster family arrived to take him home, the puppy's world changed once more. No cages, no concrete floors, only the soft embrace of grass under his paws and the warmth of a real home. But there was something else waiting for him. For majestic Huskies, their piercing eyes curious as they circled the newcomer. He froze, his tiny frame trembling. unsure if he belonged among these giants. The Huskies sniffed him cautiously, their tails swaying like pendulums of judgment. One nudged him gently, another barked sharply, testing his courage. He lowered his ears, his eyes darting for escape. But the foster mom knelt beside him, her hand resting protectively on his back. "It's okay," she whispered. Encouraged by her presence, the puppy stayed still, waiting for the pack to decide his fate. Then something remarkable happened. The eldest Husky, with silver fur and wise blue eyes, stepped forward. He sniffed the little shepherd once more and then licked his ear. The tension broke instantly. Tails wagged, playful growls echoed, and the pack accepted him as one of their own. For the first time, the German Shepherd puppy didn't feel like a victim. Surrounded by strength and belonging, he felt something he had never known before: family. Life with the Huskies was like entering a new world. At first, the little German Shepherd trailed behind, cautious and unsure. But the pack wasted no time teaching him their ways. They ran together across open fields, their paws pounding in unison. Though his steps were clumsy, the Huskies slowed their pace, guiding him gently. Each day, his timid whimpers gave way to joyful barks, his spirit awakening with every shared adventure. Playtime became his classroom. The Huskies showed him how to chase leaves in the wind, tumble in the grass, and howl at the moon. When he stumbled, they nudged him back up. When fear made him hesitate, they barked encouragement. Slowly, his posture changed. His head lifted higher, his tail wagged proudly. He was no longer the fragile pup rescued from a cage. He was learning what it meant to be free. The bond grew deeper with each sunrise. At mealtimes, he no longer hovered nervously. He joined the circle, shoulder to shoulder with his new family. Nights were spent nestled close, the warmth of the pack chasing away the cold memories of his past. Among the Huskies, he wasn't just surviving. He was thriving, discovering confidence, courage, and a place where he truly belonged. The months passed quickly, and the once weak German Shepherd puppy grew strong and confident. His coat shone, his eyes sparkled with life, and his bark carried a tone of joy rather than fear. Running side by side with his Husky brothers and sisters, he had become a true member of the pack. No one looking at him now would ever believe he had come from a cage built for suffering. The foster family watched with pride as the pack chased through the snow, their playful howls echoing against the hills. The German Shepherd no longer stood apart. He led the charge, his paws cutting through the drifts with determination. What had begun as a rescue had turned into a rebirth, and every wag of his tail told a story of triumph. His journey spread beyond the household. Neighbors, rescuers, and strangers online followed his transformation with awe. Messages of hope poured in, inspired by a puppy who had endured cruelty but discovered love. Nestled each night among the Huskies, he drifted into sleep with a heart full of belonging. His story was more than survival. It was proof that even the smallest spark of kindness can turn despair into family and tragedy into a new beginning.